3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Welcome to Roots of Reality. I'm your host, Ben Baumann, and today we're going to be talking about Phase 4, the birth of our species. Going back in time, 300,000 years ago, we find the very beginning of our species, the Homo sapiens, in Africa. This is where our story began. Now, the first man that all men living today descend from occurred around 300,000 years ago, at the very beginning of our species. And all men today have his genetic markers. And we call him Y chromosome Adam. Now, the first woman that all women today descend from is actually a little bit later. It wasn't until 180,000 years ago, based off of current projections, that the first woman that all women today descend from lived. So we have a little bit of a time gap there between Y chromosome Adam and what we call mitochondrial Eve, the first woman. And from there, when our species started in Africa, it would eventually expand to Europe and Asia. But as we expanded, and even as we expanded throughout Africa, our species would realize that we were not alone. In fact, our species was just one human species of many. In fact, there were 7 other human species that existed at the same time as the very first Homo sapiens on our planet. Now just imagine walking around planet Earth and seeing human beings, but the human beings that you are seeing are actually not of the same kind. That's kind of a scary thought. Someone that looks so similar to us, but yet is different. Thus, along with our species, were Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo floresiensis, the Neanderthals, the Denisovans, Homo luzonensis, and lastly, Homo naledi. Those species, combined with us, brings us to a total of 8 different species of humans living on planet Earth at the same time. And at this rate, there are probably more just waiting to be found. So this begs the question, why did we survive and these species didn't? To answer this question, there are several different reasons for this, and it seems like it's probably a combination of several factors. As Homo sapiens, we had a superior ability to make tools and innovate. We were better hunters. We had a more flexible diet. We had more powerful brains, though not much more than, say, Neanderthals and Denisovans, for example. We also, though, had complex language. It seems very likely that Neanderthals, at the very least, had language, but the way that people could communicate and work together was incredibly advanced. Also, our ability for collective learning, for passing down knowledge and building off of it from one generation to the next was extremely advanced. These are among various other probable reasons for us surviving while the others went extinct. Overall, though, at the end of the day, we were just better at adapting to our environment, especially when it came to things like climate change, which is often the major cause of extinctions throughout the history of life. And because we had a greater adaptability, this resulted in greater survivability for our species. And as a result, our numbers would continue to grow over time, while the numbers of other species would slowly become less and less until there were no more. So it is not like our species engaged in some type of warfare with the other human species that went extinct. There was no genocide at play or massacre. that didn't happen. There's no evidence of that happening. We just were better at surviving. Simple as that. And when two different species are competing for the same resources, which we often did, we were better at it. Thus, at the end of the day, we are the most complex, intelligent, and powerful species to ever live on Earth. Our planet has never seen anything like us. What if I told you, though, that some of these species never actually went extinct? What if I told you, in fact, some of the species that went extinct are actually within some of us today? And this is because our ancestors, thousands and thousands of years ago, interbred with Denisovans and Neanderthals, therefore leaving their DNA within us. In fact, according to the latest genetic research, people that are of non-African ancestry have on average 2% Neanderthal DNA and 2% Denisovan DNA. Meaning, if you were not from Africa, if you have any ancestry that doesn't come from Africa, you are not 100% Homo sapien. You are actually likely to be a part of 3 different species. Now, given obviously the human side is much more significant than the others, but there are some people that have as high as 6% DNA from some of these species, for example. So the point is that the way that we look at ourselves and how we understand ourselves is actually far more complex than we realize. It's fascinating to think about that when you look in the mirror, you are looking at not only a Homo sapien, but you may be looking at a Homo sapien that's also part Neanderthal or part Denisovan. And I can attest to this fact. I have had my DNA tested through National Geographic's Genographic Project. If you're interested, they send you a DNA test in the mail, and through a cheek swab, they will collect your cells on the inside of your cheek, and they can test your DNA as a result. I have done this, and I have gone back my results, and I found out that I'm actually 1.9% Neanderthal, approximately, as well as 0.2% Denisovan. Therefore, me, your host, Ben Baumann, is not 100% Homo sapien. And you might not be either. And I will tell you, when I first learned this, it was very strange, especially just to get a DNA result back showing this, because often the case when it comes to talking about the history of existence and where we come from, we are constantly finding ourselves waking up to new identities. Identities that we never claimed because we never knew. But when we know them, we realize how complex and convoluted and bizarre at times and fascinating our story really is. And we shouldn't be afraid of accepting this new identity, because at the end of the day, it's our reality and we can't change it. Even if we decide to ignore it, it's always going to be there. Rather, we should be empowered by it, because it is who we are, and it's where we come from. Thus, in conclusion, thank you for listening to Roots of Reality. Be sure to share this podcast with your friends, subscribe on my website, and follow Roots of Reality on social media. Share with the world. And until next time, this has been Ben Baumann. I am part Denisovan, I am part Neanderthal, and so might be you. As always, 13.8 billion years led to you, so make the most of it.